A reading from the Gospel of Mark. They went on from there and passed through Galilee. Jesus did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples and saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying, and they were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. And he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." There's a lot going on in this short passage. Jesus, first of all, his sort of ability to know what's in the hearts of his disciples, whether it's technically in his earshot or not, it seems to be in his heart's hearing all the time. And that's probably a message for us right there, to know that whatever we choose to put in writing or speak into our prayers, that actually God's always kind of listening in on us and already knows what's in our hearts and on our minds. So that's enough of a lesson for one day. But I want to look to the end of this reading, where Jesus, having explained to his disciples, look, if you want to be great, you've got to be willing to be servant of all. And then to emphasize the point, brings a little child into their midst, sits the child on his lap and says, if you want to be great, you've got to look at this child and imagine serving this child and welcoming this child. And lest we be carried away by our modern day idolization almost of children, which I'm not against treating children well, but children in Jesus' day were not like children in our day. Children in our day, most people will go out of their way to protect, to help a child, to give a child the best chance, all those things. I mean, we have really embraced the welfare of children to a degree in our country. But this is not the world in which Jesus was living. Children you didn't get too attached to them because you weren't so sure they were going to live, and they didn't really have any status. And children were sort of looked at as a means to an end, a little sort of workforce in the making, and actually, using that child labor. No compunction about that whatsoever. So when Jesus says, look at this child, he's not being sweet or sentimental. He's saying, look at the most disempowered person in the system. I mean, sure, you've got your poor and you've got your people who are marginalized for whatever reason, for ethnicity or race or gender. There's that marginalization, but the children aren't even really considered full people yet. So this is the person that you must be willing to welcome and to serve if you want to be great in my world. So Jesus tells us to look for the radical extreme of the disenfranchised person, the person with no power, the person with no ability to care for themselves. Children are dependent. And that is the person that we should be actively seeking out in order that we may serve them, if in fact we want to be great in the kingdom that God is calling into being and God is bringing into being in our midst even now. So let's think today in today's terms, whom would Jesus sit on his lap and say, if you want to be great, you've got to welcome this person. And if you welcome them, you welcome me and the one who sent me. May God be with you in your meditation on this, and may God bless you and keep you this day and always. Amen.